Okay, so it looks like we're done with the drawing. Let's go ahead and post this on Reddit, and hopefully people enjoy themselves. Yep, looks good. So while the 60-second speed draws in the background give you context before we break down this drawing later, I'm going to kind of explain how this video works. Usually whenever I make videos on my pieces, I usually just do a long rant about why they suck, or how I feel about them, or how I feel about drawing them throughout the time. But I feel like that's not as interesting, so instead I'm actually going to break down the categories of why I think it sucks, why I think most people think it sucks, and the main critiques that I actually got. This way I can make a mental note on how my drawings did, why they performed well or why they performed poorly, and then make mental notes on how to fix the issue in the next drawing or in the near future. This is just a way for me to receive critiques, actually internalize them, and then move on to actually progressing about just them flowing over my head. But besides that, if you have any more critiques after this video, I would love to hear them. Improving is my #1 goal, so that would be great and amazing. And without further ado, after this speed draw ends, we're going to start with category #1. Okay, so in general, with this drawing, I think it's one of my better drawings. Whenever it's really weird because whenever I draw Jenna, which is this OC that I've drawn plenty of times, I always make a breakthrough in my art. This is when I was initially trying to color. This is when I actually started looking into values and how they kind of work. Also the Asaro heads, when I figured that out. And then I came into this. This is when I figured out a lot about filters and how I started using the RGB auto action and stuff like that. And then this is when I came into more into like an art style that I'm actually more in tune with, especially with the hair. I actually really like how I did the hair and the eyes. I did the eyes very different in this one compared to this one. I don't think this one even has a pupil. It doesn't even have a pupil. It doesn't have a pupil on it. But there's so many issues that I have. There's so many issues that I thought initially whenever I actually finished the drawing. But usually after I'm done finishing my art pieces, I usually send them to Reddit to be judged by the masses, because it's really easy to get a lot of people to see your drawing very quickly on Reddit. At least that's what the views tell me, because this specific drawing got 59,000 views on Reddit, which is my post insight. While whenever I'm drawing and in the process of it all, I usually post them to Discord, and then I usually post them on my Discords and other Discords. That's when I'm in the process of drawing them, but once they're finalized and finished, I post them on Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for the masses to see and for them to be judged. With that in mind, I got a lot of comments this time around telling me what were the weaknesses, what they liked, and overall the reception has been quite positive, which I'm very happy about. But that doesn't mean that it is a perfect drawing, of course. So there are a couple issues that I have. Issue #1, and we're gonna start with the easiest one, which is face proportion, or just the face in general. I wrote face proportion on the doc, but in reality, it's just the head size. This one's very simple, very easy. When I was trying to resize everything, I usually try to match the hand size with the head, because your hand is actually surprisingly big. If you fully spread out your hands and put it on your face, it covers the majority of your face. And I thought that because that's the case, the hand should probably cover the majority of this particular face. So I made the face quite big in order to fit the hand. But in reality, I think the head ended up being a little bigger than necessary. So if I were to redraw this, I would probably downsize the head a little bit in order to just kind of better fit on the body in general. It's not something that I think is a glaring problem, but it almost has this bobblehead effect whenever I look at the sketch. I can't seem to get that bobblehead idea out of my thought process whenever I'm looking at it. But you could argue it looks fine. Anime tends to have larger heads, especially foreheads for bigger expressions. But in my opinion, because this is kind of more detailed than I usually do it, I would have liked if the head was just a tad bit small, like the slightest bit smaller. And with that in mind, this is the second category. I'm gonna put this in quotes. I just don't like the hat because it's on the head. I'm just gonna put it in the same category. I don't like the hat. I think the hat is drawn very poorly. I wish the visor on the hat was much larger, but what can you do? I'm not very good at drawing hats, even though I love accessories. I love hats. I wish I was better at drawing them. It's specifically the visor that screws me up. I don't know how the visor looks in certain directions, certain where you're looking at it, from up, down, left, right, if you have it twisted, if she's wearing it correctly, or if she's just tilting it towards the side. It's not necessarily that it's not something I necessarily practice continuously, so it kind of screws me up a lot. But with that in mind, I think it's just a very minor issue that I personally have a problem with. I didn't see too many people point it out, but there were a certain amount of people that said some of the proportions were mismatched, and I can only assume that's something with like the head or maybe the hands. All right, so on to category number 2, and that one's a pretty simple category, but it is the one that I got cut out for the most. So this one's where I spend the most time on, and that is anatomy, specifically with the stomach. Everything else didn't really seem to get that much of flack. It was specifically the stomach here and how it looked really weird. Now, I'm going to show you what was the number one critique, and it was that she's too skinny. And I think there was confusion, and this is where the confusion happened. There is more stomach underneath this shirt. Why is the opacity so low? There is more stomach underneath this shirt right here. I got multiple comments with confusion if she's actually that skinny or if there's more stomach to be shown within and underneath the shirt. So if we were to actually go and turn off everything, turn this off, make this back to a white background, and turn on my sketching layer, you will see that there is more stomach. I did indeed draw more stomach. And the shirt actually does cut into it because I eventually decided to reduce the size. I think the issue is that because it cuts it off in a very awkward way, and it doesn't visually cue volume that it would go around. I think everyone thinks she's very, very thin, and the stomach looks very, very off. In fact, when I showed the picture to my brother, because no one mentioned it during the process, when I showed the picture to my brother, he didn't like it. He thought the stomach was so off-putting that, or at least the this hip dip over here, he thought the hip dip was so off-putting that he said it was too distracting to focus on anything else. So I think for future references, I need to be a lot more careful about how I position the stomach and also the belly button. I did get some flack for the belly button because I don't think, because she is kind of twisting. She's twisting a little bit. Let's say if her hands and her body is that just directly facing you. Let's say that her hips are kind of tilted by like 30 degrees, maybe just about 30 degrees, I'd say, right? But I don't think I visually showed that very well, if at all. So that's what I would probably do. Try to convey that a lot better, because a lot of people, and I mean a lot, I mean like out of 128 comments, I'd say a solid third of them mentioned the stomach, thought that it was really weird and off-putting even. Which sucks, because you don't want that, especially when her face and her hands are supposed to be the center of attention. Having her stomach being so off-putting that it draws completely all the way down there, that's no go. That is something I do not want to do. So 100%, if I were to redraw it, I might in fact have her face this way. You can even tell like even her nether region is pointing towards this direction. It'd be better if I just straighten the belly button, straighten the shorts and her hips in general, and just make her facing you directly. I just thought it'd be a little bit more interesting if she was slightly tilted, but I guess I just didn't pull it off that well. All right, third issue is clothes folds. Now, this is actually what I thought would have been the biggest issue, which is the clothes folds. I'm not too worried about everything up here. It's not perfect. It's not amazing, but you can tell that it is going to be scrunched up, and it is supposed to kind of pinch here because this is where her shoulders and her chest kind of meet, and then she's squeezing when she brings her arms in to point at you directly. I'm actually quite happy with the hands. They're not perfect, but I'm actually quite happy with them. But what I was not happy about is the visual clutter that's on this particular side. This side right here. This maybe not as much, but I am really worried about how this is not accurate at all. Like these down here, but this is just a visual cluster. F like it's crazy. There's just so much stuff here, and it doesn't really follow anything. The thought process is that because she's squeezing so hard, the clothes would eventually pop out on the other end and kind of go this way first, and then droop back down. But in reality, I feel like it would just droop and then maybe cause like a little, maybe like start building up towards the bottom here. If anything, when this kind of floops over like this, and you get to see the underside of the jacket, it might pop back up a tad bit. That's how I would redraw it now. I also wanted to kind of convey a little bit more volume, so I kind of popped it out a little further out here just to hold the rib cage. But I think that was a mistake, because this is such a weird jut. Like the clothes shouldn't just randomly pop out like that. It seems like she has something underneath that is stabbing the clothes outward. which honestly just looks so weird, especially now that I'm looking at it even more. Specifically this. Why? Why is it jutting out so far? This is awkward. Everything else, I mean, it is swooping down into this motion. If this was just removed and maybe just had like a tiny, like a less drastic pop out, I would much more prefer it. And then on this side, it should have, I don't know why it goes back up here. It should just go swoop, and then maybe even have something that like pops out just to show that it curves around the body. That's what I would do next time. I think the clothes folds just are a little weird. I don't have issues with anything up here until someone, of course, tells me. But everything below it could use a lot of work. All right, and the fourth and final issue that I think had like probably about 15% of the comments were the shading. And it was specifically with how dark they were, and that's actually something I want to talk about. I shade of usually only two values, legitimately only two values. If for every color that's on the drawing, there's only usually two values. There's a light value, and then there's a dark value, and then there's a highlight. But that's about it. I don't really consider that a value. I just consider it highlight because it's just so drastically different. To me, at least in my mind, I consider it very different. So I don't really go too dark, or I don't really have an in-between color. So if this is the skin, if this is the shadows color, and this is the highlight color, I will only use two. There's no half tone that's in the center to easily transition them over to another. And I like that. I like the really cell shaded look. But I have to admit, in this drawing, I actually did use three tone. In the color, I used three values. I wish I used a little bit more values. I wish I had one, maybe a half tone for the skin, maybe even just a darker value for stuff that's like underneath. Like if the pants is here and there's clothes over the pants, that should be like really close to black. Maybe around here. Maybe stuff that just like folds. Like look, this area that folds into it. Maybe I should just increase the line thickness there, right? I just wish there was a darker tone that would show really, really dark places. And I think I avoided them because I really wanted this drawing to pop. And in my idea, anything dark would drag it down and make it less vibrant. So I decided to avoid that because I was very scared. So next time if I were to color, I would definitely add I would add two new tones. In fact, I would keep my neutral tone, or like whatever this tone is. I would keep a dark tone and a highlight tone and a lighter tone, and then I would add a half tone to make the transition between the light tone and the shadow tone a little bit better, and then a fourth tone that's really dark for those really weird areas, for those really areas that fold, are like directly over each other and are really hindering where any of the light shows. Even areas underneath the hair right here, like here, maybe even directly underneath the hat right here. Maybe even parts of just like here. I mean, there's a bit of a different color there, but those areas should definitely be pretty dark. It should get a lot darker than the rest of these. So that's what I would change. That's what I'd add. So overall, that's where I usually. That's where I would set most of my categories at, and those are the parts I would point out specifically that were kind of off and kind of weird. Of course, if you have any other issues, please go ahead and notify me. But that seems to be it so far. That seems to be the categories I found. So thank you to all of those who saw my drawing on Reddit. I won't mention any names. I don't know if anyone wants their account on the video. But usually I post this stuff on Reddit on r/learn-to-draw or r/digital art. I actually posted another drawing, so the next video should be about another drawing that I posted on Reddit. But yep, thank you to everyone who made comments on the Discord, on everything. I very much appreciate it. These critiques and comments make it a lot easier for me to point out issues and to find solutions to them quickly, because one of the hardest things about art is actually learning what the problem is. I think learning to fix the problem is so much easier than actually locating the problem in the first place. So thank you for all those for making it easier on me and making it just simpler. Thank you to everyone in my Discord, like Milky, oh God, Lost Me, Maggie was also there too. Some people on XL's Discord too. Thank you a lot. So thank you for all your comments. If you have any more comments to fix stuff up that I haven't mentioned, something new, something that you think would elevate my art piece, it doesn't have to be particularly about this specific art piece. Maybe just general art advice you think would really be helpful. I would love that. I think it would be amazing. And I appreciate all the help I can get. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe, please leave a like, and also comment down below if you would like to. This stuff really supports me, and it really it's nice to know that people are willing to engage, and it just keeps me more motivated to keep uploading videos. Besides that, then you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and take good care. Bye-bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.